Today, we are going to make some grass. No, I'm not in Colorado, so it's not going to be that kind of grass. It's our techniques that are so simple and sensible, your miners have practically built themselves. Hello folks, it's Mad Dog Merv. Welcome to the Kid Hoarder Stash. Today, well, we have another figure. You see I got Blackbeard back there, and keeping with the Halloween theme, we are going to look at and review this Atlantis kit that was released last year. Re-released, I should say. It's the old Aurora kit. The Forgotten Prisoner of Castle-Mare. I think I said that right. Or Marie, or whatever it is. Anyway, glow in the dark too, which is right up my alley for this place. So here you can see the back of the box and what it looks like, and the good old Aurora box art. I love it. And we're gonna open this puppy up and review it, and then I think we're gonna build this just like we did Blackbeard. Blackbeard's in 1/10 scale. I believe this is 1/8. Let's see what it says here. It doesn't say on the box. Oh yeah, it is. It does. Right here. 1/8 scale. And it's recommended for 14 and older. So, there you go. Why not 12 and older? I don't know. Why 14? I have no idea. I digress. So, here's some of the features. It's 8 inches in height, a little over 8 inches in height, 4 inches in width, 51 parts molded in gray. How about that? Where I think he was like I don't know how many parts he was, but anyway. Here's our glow in the dark pieces. Got feet and hands. Got 3 different hands. You got this guy has no guts at all. No guts, no glory. Anyway, torso, legs, arms, and wow, 2 different skulls. Half a skull and a full skull. Ooh, oh, that's pretty neat. It's actually really neat because, you know, some weirdo like me would actually fabricate the rest of a figure and get 2 figures out of this. 2 for the price of 1. I love it. So here is the destructions. And it says the Forgotten Prisoner. It has note for kit number 453. This monster kit includes parts molded in frightening lightning. Frightening lightning. I love it. Before assembling, take all the parts into the darkened room or closet to determine which feature to paint and which to leave with ghoulish glow power. How about that? Then you've got your assembly instructions here. So basically 10 steps, and it just shows you how to put him together. So he's a real quick build. We're going to see how the fit comes out on him. And then here you put him to his rock wall, and you've got some rats. You doity rat. Snake. The thing here says the Forgotten Prisoner. So this ought to be fun. We're going to have some fun painting this. There's the paint call-outs right here. So, wow. Just a fun old kit. Very, very nostalgic. No wonder Dave said, yeah, I would like to build that. So we are going to build this. Let's take a look at the gray parts, or the gray matter in this case. If this is frightening lightning, this is going to be gray matter. So there you go. So here, right off the bat, is our snake. Oh yeah, that's fun. That's fun. Ah, Cookie, I hear you. The skull, the hands, the shackles, the chains. Ooh. The front of the torso. His breeches with the knee bone sticking out. Ooh, a big old nasty spider. Ooh, creepy. And then the rats. And the nameplate. Here you got the back of the torso and his leg bones and the display base and the wall. So that's it. You know, not a lot to it. I'm definitely gonna have a blast doing this. I just have to decide how I want to do it. And so we're gonna make that determination, and we're actually gonna get started, and we're gonna build this one right now. So stick with us. Okay, so we've got the preliminary painting done now, and preliminary assembly. So here are the glowing parts, and I just had to put together the hands on the bones and the two halves of the skull. And you can see there's not much of a seam. I'm gonna have to do something with it, but anyway, here's the base and the clothing. I went ahead and sprayed with that white spray paint the bones, and black for the spider, and that dark steel color for the metal parts there. And there's the snake and the rats put together. So we'll go ahead and get the body assembled, get this part here assembled, and we will start doing some painting. And we'll start painting on the base next. Now, there was a little bit of flash, not a lot, but there was a little bit of cleanup, particularly on the fingers, the toes, just some different parts. The skulls, all the skull parts had a little bit of flash that really did need to be cleaned up. So it wasn't bad, but there is just a little bit, just so you know. The molds are actually in pretty darn good shape, so I was impressed with the quality, at least for something that came out in 1966 originally. So, all right, we're going to get started on the rest of the painting. So here's the skulls assembled, and you can see that big, it's not really a seam, it's just kind of a seam, so to speak. So I'm going to have to do something with that, but they went together very nicely. And we'll sand those down, we'll reshoot the white on there, everything will be fine, I'm sure of it. So here they are, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some, it's kind of a tan color by Mission Models, and some brown that I have. I'm going to mix just a little bit together here, and we're going to give it a wash and kind of come up with that grimy bone color. You can kind of see in the background that skull, and here it is on both skulls. I like this look. I think it kind of gives it that more natural, grimy bone look. We're going to wash down the hands, the feet, the leg bones, the arm bones. All of it is going to get this wash to just kind of give it an aged look. And here you go. Now, one last thing I am going to do, and you'll notice this later, is I'm going to give everything some Larry's bathwater, which is a black wash, so those toes are really going to stick out, and you'll see that here in just a few minutes. So now we're going to look at the base, and this back wall, remember that nice beautiful black that I had on there? Well, I've mixed up just some white and black craft paint, came up with a neutral gray, gave it one coating of dry brushing, and you can see how much it popped. It really looks good. So I took a little bit of brown, added it to it for kind of a second tonal variance, and then finally a little bit more white to come up with this really bright contrast. Now, there was a green, it's kind of a Japanese flying boat green. So we just applied that with a fine brush here to the cracks to kind of give it like that mold, growing look. Then I went ahead and took some of the color that we're going to use on the shackles, and I put that on the bars, And finally, I've taken some of this Liquitex acrylic gel gloss, and where the shackles go into the wall, I kind of ran some of that down to give it a wet look. I know you really can't see it in this photo, but it'll show up in some of the other photos later. So now we're going to get started on the torso. And if you saw the black beard that I did a few weeks ago, what we're going to do is we're going to take that same Tester's Model Master, it's a color by Boyd, like Purple Passion or something. We're going to spray this down. It's really glossy, but that's okay. Then I took some Tester's Red, painted the sash. I just took some white from Mission Models, painted the chest, and then the shirt is a tan from Mission Models. And we're going to put this aside to dry. And the glowing one, I started to do the same thing with that, because obviously I don't want the whole thing to glow, just the bones. So anyway, it gives you some idea of what I'm doing right there. Now, using that Model Master paint, obviously I have to let it dry for 24 hours. So then I come back with this rust, this Model Master rust, and I dry brush the coat. And it gives me kind of a worn appearance on the high areas, kind of a highlight, if you will. You'll see how this all blends out later. I think it turns out really well. But anyway, this was the next step that I did on this coat, because this is going to be a pirate, and I wanted a nice, maroon colored coat for him to wear. Okay, so now we have taken some craft paint. We've got a chocolate brown. We've got some of that or some white. We're going to mix it together here a little bit, and we're going to dry brush this whole thing. And poof, you can see how it kind of that dusty, worn look, because obviously there's going to be a lot of dust. It's been in there a long time, and you can see how it really makes those creases pop. And the back side, well, same thing. It's really blended in well there. The low areas are nice and dark, and the highlights, well, they're nice and light. And again, it's just craft paint mixed together. And anyway, you can see the color right there in the middle. That's what I used, and I just used my table as a palette. So I'm going to take the same color, and I'm going to go over those flat black pants. That's the only dry brushing I'm doing on here. And again, it really helps this thing to pop. You can see the areas where it's kind of threadbare and whatnot. I really like the effect, and I think it turned out pretty well. And here's the front part and how that turned out. Again, it's just that same exact color that I used on the coat above. And then we're going to paint the bones white. We're going to give them a wash of that kind of a brownish bone colored wash, I call it, and wait for that to dry. And here you go, the torso and the bottom. And once those are dry, we are going to put those together. In fact, it's time to pretty much put the whole rest of this thing together, because we're pretty much done with the what I call the preliminary painting, but it really isn't. There's more detail into it. So this is the color. It's this Fusion all-in-one. It's a dark steel, and that's what I used for the shackles, for all the metal parts. I went ahead and some of it I sprayed. Some of it I had to use a brush for little touch-ups, but this is the color I used for all of my metal parts. And let's take a look at the finished product. You can see here on his neck how that looks, and with his head on there. Oh, yep, we made an eye patch out of styrene plastic, and the band is just made out of tape, masking tape, really cut thin, painted black. So you can see how the rats turned out, the other skull, and the snake. I just used a bunch of different colors and just dry brushed him. Yeah, coming together, looking pretty darn good, the Forgotten Prisoner. So here you go, that nasty old spider I just painted black, dry brushed him with some brown. You see the rat here, he's again just gray with a little bit of brown dry brushing. His eyes are painted black, and he's chewing on that hand. It's hard to see that area where the water is dripping out of the shackle bases, but, well, it is there. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed building it. Thank you so much, folks, and we'll see you again next week.